Raucous. Subscribe to Vincent Valentine EX Turk channel.
What's up, guys? What's up, my Archvies of Chaos? This is your King and Knight Vincent Valentine EX Turk with another Final Fantasy segment, another Final Fantasy VII segment to be specific, and this will be on the compilation. And this will not be Crisis Core. This will be Dirge of Cerberus. Now, what does the title Dirge of Cerberus actually really mean? Because Final Fantasy games is known to actually have Greek mythology mixed with other various mythologies. And if you look at Vincent Valentine's gun with the three dog heads, and the gun's called Cerberus, and the game's called Dirge of Cerberus, and the last part in Dirge of Cerberus you go to is the base of deep ground, deep ground itself. Could this be symbolized that Vincent has to go down to the underworld to fight the leader of the underworld to save the world? And maybe that's what it means. Because after you defeat Azul the Cerulean, the big gate opens, and then Vincent Valentine says something very peculiar. He says, "Well, we enter hell." So could that mean that's what deep ground is a metaphorical symbol of? And could that mean that really Vice the Accumulate is the Greek god Hades? Is that what is it? I mean, is that possible, considering the fact that this is based off of most Final Fantasy stuff is based off Greek and Norse mythology. Sometimes they mix other mythologies in as well, as Japanese mythology, biblical mythology, any kind of mythology you could think of. And this is why I like Final Fantasy games. You do learn a little bit of each mythology. Pretty much, if you want to pass a mythology class, I'd play games like God of War and Final Fantasy, because you do learn about the lores between every mythology. And I think it's implied that that Dirge of Cerberus is actually a game of Greek mythology, besides being a Final Fantasy VII spin-off, because the symbolization of Vincent's gun, the Cerberus, the title, Dirge of Cerberus, and then you see on the cover, if you got the English cover, of course, if you got the English cover of Dirge of Cerberus, the European copies or American copies of Final Fantasy VII Dirge of Cerberus, you notice on the cover there's a picture of Vincent Valentine's face, and in the background a bunch of flames. So is it symbolic to something? Is it symbolic? Besides the game being about Vincent Valentine's past and how he came to be and everything, and put every detail of him that was taken out of the original game, but I think it's more than that. I think it's a symbolic game. I think it's one of the many various Greek stories. Because the title is Dirge of Cerberus. The gun that Vincent Valentine uses is not only called the Cerberus, but has three dog heads. The final part of Dirge of Cerberus, the final level, is deep ground. But Vincent Valentine says this is hell, pretty much. So, could this be symbolic to Greek mythology? I mean, I think it's possible that it is. You know, I think this is not only about Vincent Valentine, and this is not about extending Final Fantasy VII, even though most of the themes are Final Fantasy VII, according to when Reeve told Vincent the only people who knew about Deep Ground's existence were Scarlet, Heidegger, and President Shinra. Even President Shinra's son, Rufus Shinra, didn't know about Deep Ground. Only those three. So it did put things from the original Final Fantasy VII into this game and made it fit well. But I think they were also trying to push a mythology story on the fact that Vincent's weapon is Cerberus. The title of the game is Dirge of Cerberus. The cover is Vincent Valentine standing in front of flames. The deep ground is pretty much symbolic to where Cerberus guards in Greek mythology. That's why I think this game is more than just a Final Fantasy VII spin-off. That this is a symbolic game as it is. You know? Besides the gun gameplay, besides the overly edgy, hot topic-y, like, background story, no offense, as much as I love the game, I think it's also trying to tell a Greek mythology story at the same time. Because you gotta look at everything. Final Fantasy is more than just a good story. Every Final Fantasy cover is symbolic. You know, every Final Fantasy game is symbolic. Just even looking at the cover of the stuff, or even the casual logos. As you see in Final Fantasy VII, you see a green meteor in front of the title Final Fantasy VII, meaning it's got something to do with a meteor. And in fact, it did. Then you have Cloud with a big giant sword standing in front of a building that looks like a giant robot, and the PlayStation 1 Final Fantasy VII explains something. There's a symbolic pattern because Cloud's the only colored is the only one colored in the picture, while everything else is white and transparent, meaning that maybe something else is in there. And as likewise to every other, Final Fantasy, And if you ever notice Final Fantasy 13, 13-2, and Lightning's Return have the color contrast of pink. But those are just colors. I'm just trying to say is that, yes, I think there is something about the title of Dirge of Cerberus. Something about Vincent Valentine's gun, the Cerberus gun. And you never got to see the Cerberus in the actual Final Fantasy VII original game. In fact, the original Final Fantasy VII game, his gun was a Quicksilver, or pretty much would call the real world equivalent, the Magnum gun, pretty much. Just, the Magnum gun is kind of like what you see in the James Bond game, where it's just a short silver gun. It's either a Magnum or a Quicksilver in the original Final Fantasy VII game. And that's because, again, they played Vincent Valentine to be an extra character that you really wasn't mandatory to unlock. In fact, he was completely optional. But it's your best interest to lock him because how powerful he is. But, Dirge of the Cerberus gun comes only in the game Dirge of Cerberus. Now, the Cerberus gun was teased in the Avid Children movie because they wanted to upgrade everybody's weapons. And who knows, they might actually switch Vincent's gun in the remake to Cerberus. But before that, there was no Cerberus. So I think if it's exclusively a Dirge of Cerberus while being teased in Avid Children, the cover, the title Dirge of Cerberus, and the final area of Dirge of Cerberus is connected somehow. And maybe it could be even further than Greek mythology. I think it could also have told Dante's Inferno. Because how Dante's Inferno, where Dante had to go to hell to save his wife, and stuff like that. Except, of course, Vincent's wife or potential wife, because they never officially, married, maybe there's pieces of her stuck in deep ground, and Vincent has to get it out. Not to mention, Dirge of Cerberus is pretty much DMC. But with Final Fantasy, if you really look at it, it's pretty much DMC games with Final Fantasy. The only thing they twisted around is that they used mostly Greek mythology, because it is Greek mythology. Cerberus, the dog that guards the underworld. Cerberus is the gun that Vincent uses. The title is Dirge of Cerberus. Vincent Valentine standing in front of flames. Maybe if Cloud Strife is the guardian of the life stream, maybe Vincent Valentine is the guardian of the guardian of the underworld. It could be possible. And then if you ever see the original traces and the original designs of Tetsuya Nomura's concept art of Vincent Valentine. Originally, he didn't use a gun. In fact, he used a Reaper sight originally in the concept art. It was scrapped out in the final game, of course, but I think there's hints to not only Tetsuya Nomura's original work, but but also Greek mythology. So it's more than just a Final Fantasy VII game. If you go look at the sources. So yes, I think the title is connected to some. The title's connected, the gun's connected, everything is connected to Greek mythology. So may the crystal be with you. Tell me what you think in the comments below. May the crystal be with you.
Yo, Percocet, yeah. Miley Percocet, Percocet, yeah. Miley Percocet, rep the set, yeah. Gotta rep the set, gang, gang. Chase a chick, never chase a bitch, chase no bitch. Man.